So, had my first motor out. It was a run out of gas, unfortunately. Man, I had a pretty good field here to land in though. Right here. Wow. That kind of sucked, but I'm not too far away. I have about a mile to walk, maybe. Just across. I have to think of how I'm going to get over to the airport. A little ways away, but I'll figure it out. That's a bummer. Whew, it's a good flight though.
Hello, Cloudwalker PPG here with another video. I'd like to discuss another milestone for me as I recently had to undergo the inevitable motor out landing. On this flight, I'd spent a significant amount of time on a cross-country flight for the video that I just most recently uploaded. After completion, my total flight time was just under 2 hours. About 3 minutes before the engine died, I checked the fuel level, but did not see any signs of fuel in the tank. So I pretty much hit the throttle to get more altitude. Since the batteries died on my main cameras, I did not get any actual footage of the motor out landing. So I decided to film this recreation video segment of the actual location in order to do an analysis of my options and decisions during this motor out scenario. Here I'm getting close to the motor out area. It's straight ahead. The LZ is about 1.5 miles in the distance, and I realized there was no way of making it. I'm holding an elevation at this time of about 900 feet above the ground. At this point in the recreation video is roughly where the motor first sputtered. Then 5 seconds later, the motor died right about here. Because I just completed about a half an hour of trim testing on the new glider leading up to the moment of this motor out, I knew the exact direction of the wind. Determining the direction of the wind is the first item on a list of things that you can do or be aware of that will reduce the stressful nature of this emergency situation. If you know the direction of the wind, you can try to choose the best landing spot that allows you to land directly into the wind, reducing your forward speed as much as possible when your feet hit the ground. Number 2 is your altitude, or being aware of your altitude at the time of motor out. Making a quick mental note of your altitude allows you to get a good reference for the amount of time you have to make the decisions and what priorities you'll need for a successful landing. Do I have time to adjust my trims, or store loose gear, or steer the aircraft into the preferred position? Number 3 is to make note of possible obstructions where you plan to land. Are there any nearby power lines, trees, or buildings that might affect the practicality of the landing site? So, for instance, if you were to land on this road, there are a number of risk factors you would have to consider before attempting, such as power lines crossing the road or any cars coming from either direction. Number 4 is landing surface. It would be ideal if your motor out landing was always on soft grass, but just not likely. Some possibilities are cornfields, which would not be too bad of a landing, but hiking your motor out of the center of a cornfield that is 6 feet high would suck. Similarly, landing in a marsh would be about as bad, trudging through deep mud with a 70-pound paramotor on your back. Hard surface such as concrete or tar is particularly scary for me, as I have never tried to land on this surface due to tumbles I take every once in a while on landing. I definitely need to practice more on my landings. Number 5 is avoid risky landings. Some landing locations seem inviting, but can have an increased level of risk, such as the before mentioned road landing with potential cars and power lines. Also, landing in someone's grass yard could have similar obstacles of invisible power lines. The number 6 item to consider, quality of landing location, meaning what location will require the least effort to get yourself on your way after you land. So it'd be nice to land as close to a main road as possible. Fenced-in areas of land would be good to avoid, as well as areas that require a hike through wooded area. Number 7 is to make sure your trims are pulled in to reduce your speed during landing. And lastly, number 8 is stash any loose gear, such as phones, cameras, and anything else, to avoid having to handle them while you operate the brakes. So what were my choices? This particular motor out was fairly simple, as all of my gear had already been stored and trims were pulled in. There were plenty of open fields below to choose from, and I was familiar with the dark green field on the left-hand side and knew it to be a cornfield. I could not remember what the other field was at the right, but figured it couldn't be any worse than the cornfield. This field was also adjacent to the road that I would need to walk my gear back to the LZ. There were power lines, but were not of any concern as they were on the far side of the road. I ended up landing at the X and was able to pack my gear and be on my way very quickly. No fences to climb, just a mile-long hike to the LZ. The field ended up being freshly cut hay, which was about between 6 and 10 inches deep, so it was a very simple and soft landing. The takeaway from this is being prepared for making quick critical decisions will reduce potential hazards when piloting your aircraft. So what about a motor out at this location without flotation? I have some idea what I would do. How about you?
Wind looks really strong. This should be a piece of cake. All right, here we go. Choppy. Bucking Bronco. Woo! Holy shit. It's choppy as hell up here. Wow, that's brutal. Woo! Holy shit, it's nasty up here. It's pretty brutal out here. Only doing 22 now. Lost a couple mile an hour. see you back there. There's the old dock. Still there, hasn't gone anywhere.
Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you in the next one.